back to the audio. Those of you that are on hold, we'll try to get to you as soon as we can, but we're talking about the interview that the mayor did with Anderson Cooper, and we want to finish some of these audio cuts, and then we'll get your opinion on it. We'll try to hear every side we can on it. So Anderson Cooper puts up this diagram, and it's a diagram of a restaurant in China, and scientists have studied it because there were about 20 people, if I recall, that got sick and got the coronavirus from this restaurant. And they found out there was one person in that restaurant at the time that they believe was asymptomatic. So it's a diagram that shows how this virus can spread so quickly, perhaps even through the air. So let's go ahead and play this cut and listen to the mayor's reaction.
There's Chinese researchers have shown how this virus spreads. And I just want to put up for our viewers. This is a restaurant.
Anderson, you are tough.
No, I'm not
We're
talking.
back to China. This isn't China.
Yeah,
this is Las Vegas, Nevada.
Wow. Okay, that's really ignorant. This is a restaurant, and the yellow circle. That's an ignorant statement. That's a restaurant, and yes, it's in China, but there are human beings too. That yellow is a person who.
Okay, so my opinion on that is this: the restaurant could be anywhere. It's a diagram. Very intelligent people have studied what took place there. It shouldn't matter whether it was in China or Las Vegas. The point that Anderson Cooper is trying to make is it's a virus that can travel through the air. How can you justify opening up casinos? We could talk about Legionnaires and what took place there. It traveled through the air and a lot of people died. So that's the only point that Anderson's trying to make. And I think the mayor said something that she shouldn't have said. And I think she was wrong. And now whether Anderson Cooper should have called her ignorant or an ignorant
statement. Do you think it was racist what she said?
No, I don't think it was racist, but I do think.
Because that's what Anderson was basically implying.
Well, she didn't say that.
Okay.
He didn't say that. He said it was an ignorant statement, and I agree with him. It was an ignorant statement.
He would say the same thing about something that someone that's something racist somebody said.
Okay, but he didn't say that. I'm only going by what was said.
It was a little theatrical. His response was. Okay, in my opinion.
But are you okay with what she said?
It's not. I mean, it's not China. And that being
Why would
said,
you say that, though?
Well, it's not. But if that,
how is that academic to the conversation?
That being said, you look at that diagram. If that diagram is real, then restaurants can't open. Restaurants theoretically cannot open at least until this virus is completely gone.
Well, that's probably part of the reason why a lot of these people some people disagree with you in regards to opening up restaurants. There has to be very strict social distancing guidelines, and it's why we had a protester on yesterday, and I was very upset at her because she's not practicing social distancing.
And that's different. That was outside. Now,
outside or inside, you shouldn't be closer than 6 feet to somebody.
A recent study came out. Since Anderson Cooper can use his diagram, I can use a study from doctors in China. They studied 318 cluster cases of the coronavirus, and they found out that not one of them was transmitted outdoors.
So that diagram that Anderson Cooper was showing and the scientist in the study you're saying is completely 100% inaccurate.
No, I am saying that this virus may be much more susceptible to spread indoors than outdoors.
And that might be possible.
And if that's the case, then protesting.
And that's very possible.
A major protest outside is probably not going to spread the virus.
But, I don't want to get off kilter with the protest. I'm just talking about this cut. Anderson is bringing up a valid point. Listen, if Mayor Goodman or yourself or anybody disagrees with that, state your point. But to start an answer mid-question by saying, this isn't China, this is Las Vegas, I'm on Anderson's side. That was an ignorant thing that she said. Now, what's she doing regarding opening up these casinos? What specifically is she doing? Have a listen to this audio.
Casino owners, I'm sure they're probably doing okay. It's the people who are working on the floor who are the ones who are going to become infected and potentially die.
No, you're talking disease. I'm talking life. I'm talking life and living. These are people who have had to abandon. Well, it maybe doesn't to you. It does to us here in Las Vegas.
No, he's right. It makes absolutely no sense what she just said. I'm talking about life. Well, so's Anderson. We're all talking about life. And by the way, she quoted as, speaking to the casino owners every day and how broken up they are. And then Anderson said, yeah, I'm sure these casino owners are broken up, but you know what? It's the employees, the ones that aren't making a lot of money, that don't have a lot of money. It's their health that we're worried about, not the people that are sitting behind a desk in a nice, clean office. But she kept talking about how she talks to the owners every day. Of course the owners want to reopen their casinos and start making money. She offered up, this is the part of the interview that I think is the worst. I mean, she basically said, in other words, she wants us to be used as guinea pigs. Have a listen to this, where she talks about how she wanted Las Vegas to be used as a control group. Have a listen to this.
But hasn't it been because of social distancing that the numbers have been what they are?
How do you know until we have a control group? We offered to be a control group. Anybody who knows anything about statistics knows that, for instance, you have a vaccine.
You're offering
the
citizens of Las Vegas to be a control group to see if your theory on social distancing works or doesn't work.
Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Don't put words in my mouth.
You just said we'll be a control group.
Excuse me. What I said was, I offered to be a control group, and I was told by our statistician, you can't do that because people from all parts of Southern Nevada come in to work in the city. And I said, oh, that's too bad, because I know when you have a disease, you have a placebo that gets the water and the sugar, and then you get those that actually get the shot. We would love to be that placebo side so you have something to measure against. So all the data until
you want to get the placebo, you don't want to get the actual. Well, no, the group who gets the placebo, by the way, usually gets the short end of the stick.
Well, you don't know. How do you know when you're in part of that group? You are.
Mayor, if.
Okay, so that was a really embarrassing moment for the mayor. Extremely embarrassing. Can we agree on that at least, JD?
Well, what happened was she had a conversation with her internal staff, and she decided to tell Anderson Cooper about that conversation.
Can we agree that was probably a mistake?
That was a giant mistake, Brian. That was a tremendously.
We're all laughing because it's ridiculous.
That was a tremendously large mistake, and she should not have honestly, because it was a private conversation first and foremost. But secondly,
but JD, here the way I agree. The way she answered it, and we finally agree on something.
How can we not agree on that?
But JD, even worse. The way she answered it and got angry at Anderson. So Anderson's saying, wait, you want them to be guinea pigs, basically, right? Like, no, Anderson. That's not what I said. What I said was I wanted them to be blah, blah, blah.
Right. She said, at one point I had
ridiculous.
At one point I had a conversation with my statistician.
So ridiculous.
Who was, I think his name was Jeremy Aguero, the name that she mentioned to us. I'm sure that's who she spoke to. And he's like, no, that's not going to work. But if she didn't say that part of the interview, I think it was probably a pretty decent interview. But
okay.
that
I disagree.
That statement right there definitely did not help her, and it did not help the city of Las Vegas as far as getting tourists from across the country, especially with how much Anderson Cooper and CNN have publicized this now.
Okay, well, it's not just CNN that's publicized it.
It may have cost Las Vegas a lot of money.
Hold on. You said something that I don't certainly is not factually accurate. It's not an opinion. It's not just CNN that publicized this. It's the world. This made national news within 5 minutes. Hold on. Within 5 minutes of this interview going public live, it was one of the top trending stories on Twitter. There's a reason for that, JD. It's not because CNN wants to boost their ratings. That's not the only reason. It's because she made herself look like a fool on national television. And by the way, we're going to talk about the fallout, but it was on the front of the Review Journal. That wasn't CNN that pushed that. It was the Review Journal that made that decision, and it was all over national news. Fox News even played an excerpt of that interview. MSNBC played it. All the local stations here played it. It was a national story, and quite frankly, it still is a national story. So it's not just CNN. So I want to play this part of the interview, JD, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because to me, this was, in my opinion, this is the most embarrassing part of the interview. We can talk about a couple other things, but the end of the interview, Anderson Cooper asked this question to the mayor of Las Vegas. I want you to have a listen to this exchange. It was the last question that Anderson Cooper asked her. Have a listen to this.
Casinos reopen. Are you going to be inside those casinos every single night putting your own life on the line?
I have lived in this town for 56 years.
Are you going to go to the casinos every night and put your life on the line all the workers you say you were there holding their hands?
So they don't need it. We weren't broken. We tragically have 150 people we lost. Tragic. We have 2.3 million people here.
I haven't heard you say yes that you would be sitting on those casino floors every night along with the people that you say you are holding their hands with.
What is the purpose of that? First of all, I have a family.
Because it would be putting your money. It would be putting money where your mouth is, to use a Las Vegas term.
Anderson,
if you say it's safe,
Anderson.
Okay, so you're not willing to sit on the casino floors with them when they're reopened and breathe the refiltered air.
First of all, I don't gamble. I used to gamble when we first came to town. I don't have the time. I work 7 days a week. I have so many things that I have to attend to. I can't sit
I wouldn't want to sit on those floors either.
Okay, so here's my response to that. Whether Carolyn Goodman gambles or not, if she truly believes what she is saying, and I would hope she does, by the way, All she had to do was answer the question like this. If I have the time, I will absolutely take my family and we will spend some time in some of these casinos. But she didn't say that. She didn't say that. She didn't say she'd be willing to do that. This isn't about whether she has time because she's cooking or she has a family. It's about, Mayor, put your money where your mouth is, as Anderson Cooper said. She said she wants everything to reopen. And Anderson is asking her a very valid question. Are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? And if I could just finish, are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? And are you willing to be there with the dealers, to be there with those good workers that you say you care about so much? She wouldn't answer the question. She danced around it.
Do you know why she didn't answer it, Brian? And this, to me, it's not about Carolyn Goodman embarrassing herself. This was Anderson Cooper not doing his research. She's 81 years old, and she is a cancer survivor, Brian. She is the highest of the high-risk groups possible.
Why didn't she say that?
If I was her, I wouldn't do that either.
Why didn't she say that?
And the fact that Anderson Cooper didn't know that and tried to use that as a gotcha moment is, again, more reinforcement that he is a pompous prick.
Okay, first of all,
I'm happy.
assuming,
I'm happy with the way that Carolyn Goodman answered that question.
Two things.
Because legitimately, she is the high risk group.
Okay, so
that's her to a T under those circumstances. So if I was her, I wouldn't do the same thing either.
Two things that you just said. First of all, she didn't say that. She could have answered it like that, and then I would have agreed with you. She chose not to. If she answered it by saying, you know what, Anderson, I'm a cancer survivor. I have an immune system that could hurt me if I got the coronavirus, then I think people would have understood. At least I would have. JD, she didn't answer it that way. That's number one.
Well,
Hold on.
Well, now you can understand,
Okay,
Brian.
well, no, I don't like her answer. I'm going to criticize her answer regardless. She didn't answer it the way she should have.
I'm going to criticize Anderson for not knowing that before asking the question.
Hang on. Number two, I'm sure he didn't know she had cancer.
He knows she's 81.
Okay? Listen, there's a lot of – you're telling me there's not people in their 80s that would hang out in these casinos?
I don't think they should.
Whether they should or whether they do are two completely different things.
I don't think they should for 3 months, but it's their decision to do so.
Exactly.
I think you'll see a lot less people that are 75 plus hanging out in casinos than you did.
The point is, they still will be there, JD, because if you open it up, there's dumb people that are going to risk their health because they want to play a slot machine and they're degenerate gamblers.
That is totally their decision.
And that's that's where we fundamentally
But Mayor
disagree.
Goodman is saying, I have a family.
Okay.
I am high risk. That's basically, in my opinion, that's what she's saying.
That's where we fundamentally
I have a family.
disagree.
I have high risk. I would not spend. And have you ever seen Mayor Carolyn Goodman in a casino before? I haven't.
Okay.
I've seen her outside
Doesn't
of them.
matter.
I've seen her talking
That's not the point.
at major events, but I've never actually seen her on the floor gambling in the smoke.
But that's not the point of the question. I think you understand why Anderson asked that. Put your money where your mouth is.
No, I get it.
And yes, I suppose you're right. I suppose an 81-year-old could risk her life or his. Hold on, if I could just finish. Risk her life or his life and go into the casinos. And I suppose it is their decision, just like it's a decision of you or I to stand in the middle of a road when a bus is coming and get killed. It is our decision. You're right. Doesn't mean it's right. There should be laws and there should be things put in place to make sure that people that maybe are susceptible, that are ignorant, do not harm themselves or harm other people. I want to play you a little bit of sound from reaction. Governor Sisolak was on with Anderson Cooper later that day yesterday, and this was in response to that interview that Carolyn Goodman did. Have a listen to this.
I have talked to people who have lost a loved one to COVID-19, to people that weren't able to visit a dying parent in a nursing home because they had restrictions on a nursing home. I spent a half hour with our first ground zero patient that we had, a veteran, at our veterans home that came out of a coma that he was in for 30 days, and he thanked me. He said, Governor, at least I'm to be able to see my grandchildren someday. Had you not done this, it wouldn't have been possible. It's important that we protect the health and the future and the well-being of our citizens. We can rebuild our economy. We will rebuild our economy. Las Vegas will continue to thrive, but I can't do that if I lose more people.
All right, this is very important. I want to share my opinion on this because this is, if anything, this is the most important cut we're going to play throughout the entire show. You can dislike Governor Sisolak. You can dislike his policies. You can call him sissy. I don't agree with you. That's one thing. The man showed empathy when he did this interview with Anderson Cooper. He was emotional. He was teary-eyed. And he showed... I guess you could say he wore his emotion on his sleeve in that interview. That is something that we've never seen, never, from the President of the United States. If you don't like Governor Sisolak, that's fine. Politically, you don't like his policies, that's fine. That's fair. We can talk about that. The man got choked up. He showed emotion. He showed the real human side to him. And he was upset at the fact that people were dying and that he was standing with a veteran and that veteran was finally able to see his or her, her family, he was choked up. And when I talk about empathy from the president, that is exactly what I am talking about. Disagree or not with Governor Sisolak, the man showed the human side to him. And from our politicians, that's what I want. I want them to show that they care about us. Governor Sisolak showed that. Again, you can disagree with his policies all day long. The man showed empathy in that interview because I truly believe he has a good heart and he cares. And if people want to go after him and they want to think that he's doing this for profit, this shutdown, or they want to think that, it's intentional, that he wants to hurt people, go back and have a listen to that interview with Anderson Cooper. The man does care. He's trying to do the best that he can. If you disagree with his policies, that's fine. So my question to you, Donald Trump supporters, is this. What excuse are you going to make where in that 40-second clip, Governor Sisolak showed more empathy than Donald Trump has showed in 3.5 years, maybe in his whole life? The president doesn't even talk about those who have died in many of these press conferences.
You don't think that President Trump has ever cried before?
I didn't say that. I said up there on a stage, in a pandemic, or in an interview, when he's asked about those who have died, when he's asked about those that are suffering, why is it we've never seen that side of him, J.D.?
Well, I mean, he's talking about the deaths, and I understand we've had 182 deaths here, but we're honestly on pace to have a 30% unemployment.
I'm not talking about the pace. I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about something else right now.
I got you, but
why are you bringing that up?
You also have to think about this. My grandfather he's not in a nursing home. He's in a retirement home. He's 85 years old. He has been locked down. There's nothing wrong with him. He's perfectly healthy.
What does that have to do with empathy?
He has been locked down. Well, there's two sides to it. He has been locked down in his little apartment that we pay $4,000 a month for in Council Bluffs, Iowa, where there is less cases than there is here. He literally cannot leave his room. He hasn't been able to leave his room for 4 or 5 weeks.
That's horrible, and I feel terrible.
Do you know how many people like him right there are out there in the country?
What does that have to do with what I just said,
hundreds of thousands
I agree.
of people
That's
like
horrible.
that out there.
I feel
why? My question is why is there no empathy for him?
What do you mean there's no empathy?
No, there isn't.
What are you talking about?
Why are those lives not being? I'm not even talking about the unemployed. I'm not even talking about the unemployed. I'm talking about those.
I talk about those people every day
that don't have the virus, that are in retirement homes.
I talk about that every day.
That they're forced
against
their will. They're forced to literally sit in their retirement home. They can't do anything they want to do.
Let me respond to that. First of all,
I think that is basically imprisonment.
Okay, well, I agree with you, and I feel horrible for your grandfather, and I talk about and I feel empathy for everybody involved, those who have died, those who are suffering, your grandfather. It's a horrible situation. But again, you deflect from what I asked you. I find that very interesting. And I'll ask it again. Hold on. I'll ask it again. Governor Sisolak, in that 40-second clip with Anderson Cooper, got emotional. He was talking about a stranger, somebody he didn't know, who he spoke to, a veteran. And his voice cracked, and he was teary-eyed.
You're right.
And he showed emotion, and I think anybody should respect that. Now, my question is this.
He did a good job.
Okay. Well, it's not about doing a good job. Okay. It's about being a human being. And my question to you is this, and I'll ask it again. Why is it that in 3.5 years, in every single press conference and in every single interview Donald Trump has done, we've never seen that human side of him? Why is that?
Why is he not had tears in his eyes?
Never shown empathy like that.
Actually, last week when he said it was the hardest day of my life, when I found out that we might not, because he didn't cry, that's the only reason why.
You think that was him showing empathy?
I mean, yeah, he said it was the hardest day of my life when I thought that we weren't going to have.
Really choked up about that.
Who cares?
Yep.
Does that mean that he's unempathetic because he's not visibly shaken up or choked up about it?
I'll answer that question.
That doesn't make any sense.
I'll answer that question.
By that logic, then anyone who is teary-eyed, doesn't matter what kind of heinous things they've done, they're off the hook.
I'll answer that question by saying this. Every single time Mike Pence takes the stage, the first thing he does is talk about those who have lost their lives, and he says thoughts and prayers. Donald Trump has never done that. I want to move on.
I would definitely agree that Mike Pence has much more empathy publicly than Donald Trump does. Publicly.
All right. Steve Sisolak has that empathy too. So if people want to continue to blast him,
but that does not change the unemployment rate. That does not change the joblessness. Okay. That does not change the amount of money that the city is going to lose. None of that changes.
But it does.
I respect and appreciate his empathy. That's fantastic. But it changes nothing.
I'm not sure you do.
Of course I do.
Let's go to Dina Titus now. Now, Dina Titus has appeared on this show many times, and I appreciate her. She's a congresswoman here in the state of Nevada. She was on with Don Lemon today talking about this Carolyn Goodman interview. Have a listen to this.
The mayor needs to listen to the scientist and the health care specialist and stop talking about my constituents as though they're guinea pigs in some grand experiment that she's trying to conduct.
Yeah, I got an experiment. Let's get a new mayor. Let's try that for an experiment. Jimmy Kimmel, who I'm a big fan of, I met Jimmy Kimmel. He's got his own comedy club here in Las Vegas, which is awesome. I've met him a few times. Great guy. Great guy. He's awesome. And he still represents Las Vegas in a great way, man. I think he's very talented, very funny. And, again, a guy that shows empathy on his show all the time. He gets very emotional on his show, and I think he's got a great heart. So Jimmy Kimmel made some comments on social media live while that interview was going on, blasting the mayor, and he continued it last night on his show. Listen to this.
Mayor Carolyn Goodman revealed her lunacy to Anderson Cooper and the whole country today. She believes that Las Vegas is ready to open the casinos now. She was like you know that dizzy neighbor you try to pretend you don't see when you're pulling into the garage? The gist of what she was saying was, why should we treat this virus any differently from anything else?
Well, he's right. He's right. And there's a lot of other celebrities that are speaking out about this interview, but the reason why I wanted to play Jimmy Kimmel is because he spent a lot of time here in Las Vegas, and I think it's important that his voice be heard, and he does such a great job on his show. I want to take some of your phone calls at 257-5396. I apologize. I know a lot of people have been waiting patiently on hold. Try to get to as many I can here in a short time, so please make your point quickly if you can. Let's go to Edward. Edward, you're first on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Edward?
Yes, I hate to throw a monkey wrench into this well-produced hit piece, but Macau.
What do you mean hit piece? Well, hold on a second.
I said Macau has been open for 2 months, including
I heard what you said.
Games.
How is this a hit piece?
39 casinos are open there, Brian.
Won't answer my question.
Yeah, I sent you an email of them playing.
I'm not reading your emails. Why do you think? Hold on a second. You just called. Excuse me. I'm going to hang up on you. I'm going to hang up on you if you don't pay attention. You just called what we did a hit piece. How was it a hit piece, sir? With all due respect,
That's an impressive rant.
We played their own words. How was it a hit piece? Explain. Yeah, okay. Well, I would have liked him to have answered that question. If you're going to start a phone call, if you want to make your point, that's fine. But when you say we did a hit piece and we play the actual audio from everybody, and we're not misrepresenting or editing anything, we're actually playing the audio, it's ridiculous.
And when you say we, when I have been relatively supportive of Mayor Goodman, except for the one thing that she said that's inaccurate as well.
Is this a hit piece?
I don't think it is.
Neither do I. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Lewis. Lewis, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Lewis?
Lewis, did we lose you?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, go ahead, Lewis. You're on.
You know, a first thing with the Anderson Cooper thing that he said, Chinese researchers, that right there tells you everything you need to know.
And that's a very good point.
I don't believe China.
Yeah.
If you believe China, that's good for you. But I would beg to differ that most people don't believe China. So
okay, let's go with that for a second. Fair enough. Let's go with that.
Cooper was talking about that.
Let's go with that.
Enough. But
let's go with that. Hold on.
The reason why I called, sir, and I posted this article on your Facebook page. There's an article from the LA Times which I think we can agree, it doesn't lean right. It leans probably left. And USC, which is an institution that leans probably heavily left, they did a study, and the article's from April 20th of 2020. Okay?
Please make your point.
You're talking about the antibody study.
The mortality rate is based on the number of confirmed infections. The higher the number of infections, the lower the fatality rate. Both studies, USC and Stanford, estimated a mortality rate of.
Okay, so I'm going to go back and do what I always do. If I could just interject.
I actually talked about this study 2 days ago.
If I can just interject, sir, you got to listen to me now. My turn, sir. I would like to ask you a question, but we don't have time. So if you could please stop talking and listen. What is your point? Do you think we should open everything up tomorrow? I hear people like you talk about studies all day long. What is your point? Open everything up tomorrow? Open the casinos? Hold on. Let me get my question out. Can you please stop talking and let me ask you a question? Do you think tomorrow we should open, including the casinos, everything up across the world? Yes or no?
Sure.
All right, have a nice day, sir. Have a nice day. I am so glad dopes like you aren't running this country.
He's not a dope.
We should open everything up tomorrow.
Here's the question, Brian.
It's ridiculous.
Here's the question. Well, you're not factoring in that people can make their own decision whether they want to go out in public or not if they're high risk.
So ridiculous.
But if the general thought process was that the mortality rate, I'm talking of CNN and Fox News, and it was nationally confirmed that the mortality rate of this virus was not 2%, but it was actually 0.2 or 0.3%. Will we be in this position? The answer, in my opinion, is no.
There's not one scientist.
So you have to bait. No, there are. There's a lot of scientists. That's the whole point.
You didn't let me finish my statement.
Okay.
I got one word in, and then you interrupted me. What
Sorry.
I was going to say was that I don't believe there's one scientist or doctor in the Trump administration or in many of these administrations as far as statewide that think everything in the world should open tomorrow. That is what that guy said. We're going to take a quick break, and that's why I called him a dope. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, he is Real Kid Poker. He's got 6 World Series of Poker bracelets. The World Series of Poker, by the way, was postponed. We're going to talk to him about that. I know he's got some really strong opinions on that Carolyn Goodman interview. Don't worry, we'll take more of your phone calls. Sit tight. We'll get to you in a little bit, but we're going to get to Daniel DeGrande first on the other side of this break right after this. You're listening to the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.